Israel maneuvers to cut physical and diplomatic distance with monarchies of the Gulf. He is now a proposal for a railroad that would start from the occupied port of Haifa, crossing Saudi Arabia and ending in Oman. Netanyahu tries to seduce this as an alternative that would favor Arab countries economically, including Palestine. Is this a deceitful offer? Can somebody think that Zionism, that so much death has caused to Palestine, now wants to negotiate? What realities are behind that? Another stakeholder is on the blank, Iran, which economic and military power grows every day. Jason Greenblatt congratulated the Israeli railroad proposal. And in our critical move today, there are converging interests. Are the monarchies willing to pay the price? Will they continue betting on the exacerbation of political positions to see the unit? Israeli railroad is our critical move today. In the context of a world context of the International Organization of Railroad in Oman, the Ministry of Transportation presented a project of railroad that would unite its country, the Mediterranean, with the Gulf. They said that the railroad corridor, the way of regional peace, would start from Haifa, Palestinian port occupied by Israel, pass by Jordan, and then connect with two existing lines to the Gulf. Minister Katz said that it is a project accepted by the U.S. administration and that it would benefit Saudi Arabia, the neighbors of the Gulf, and Palestinian economy. What Netanyahu thinks both about Palestine and Iran leads us to question the last statement made by the Ministry of Transportation and Intelligence. If Palestinians would have said yes to a Jewish state in 1947, there wouldn't have been any war with refugees or conflict. Finally, when the Palestinians say yes to a Jewish state, we'll be able to end this conflict. I am still committed with a vision of peace for both peoples. I think that the changes of the Arab world that are taking place today will help advance this peace. The greater threats for my country, the region, and the world is the Islamic regime of Iran that seeks the annihilation of Israel. It's a threat for the Middle East countries. It sponsors terrorism all over the world. This year, Iran has shot ballistic missiles, contrary to the Security Council advisory.
Irán es el primer patrocinador mundial del terrorismo.
Iran is the main sponsor of terrorism and continued building its terrorist network that now extends to the 5 continents. My point is the following. The threat that Iran represents for all is not behind us, is ahead of us. In the next years, there should be a sustained effort to reject the aggression of Iran. Regarding the nuclear negotiations with Iran, allow me to be clear. Iran will not allow the development of nuclear weapons. This was Benjamin Netanyahu, first Israeli ministry, last September. We're talking about a railroad thought to connect the Mediterranean with countries of the Gulf. We add a much more detailed description. We follow with our mapping now. This Israeli railroad that is part of the project Connection of Regional Peace will connect Eilat with Tel Aviv and countries in the Mediterranean Sea with the Persian Gulf, especially Jordan, Saudi Arabia, United Arabs, and the Sultanate of Oman. The proposal has two central ideas. Israel as a bridge on land and Jordan on the other side. It offers a shorter, more reliable and cheap route for sending goods from the Mediterranean to the Middle East and provides an alternative in the event of Suez Canal in Egypt closing, as an alternative to the route that goes from the Red Sea to the Persian Gulf, much longer and dangerous. The project is also will provide an alternative route for the transport of natural gas from the east of the Mediterranean and 130 kilometers of the Haifa port. The length is 350 kilometers, and it is expected to conclude in 5 years upon the date of its beginning. I would now like to add newsfront info regarding the actors involved and we just mentioned. Some are detailed on the headings. United States, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates conspire against Iran. This is said by an analyst, according to Newsfront. The U.S. State Department recently informed that the special representative for the Islamic Republic of Iran, Brian Hook, will meet officials of Tel Aviv and Abu Dhabi between 12 and 20 November to discuss a cooperation that enabled them to prevent what they called from the State Department, the White House, Iranian threats. He also said that the United States is committed to work with its partners and allies to fully implement a maximum pressure campaign. This plan also involves Israel and Saudi Arabia, together with the assistance of United Arab Emirates, to pursue a struggle against terrorism in the Middle East with the support of the UK. These words are from Mark Dango. It is the same that plans to destroy Iran economically and can't do it through a change of government or an open military intervention if the first two strategies fail. Economic blockade and the change of government.
Bueno, así las cosas con respecto a Irán, que además el fin de semana decía estas sanciones.
In this weekend, Iran said that the sanctions renewed by the United States are arbitrary and extrajudicial. How are the moves taking place in the region? We ask our correspondent Hisham Wanous from Damascus. Hello, colleagues. It is essential to clarify that the idea of building a trans-regional railroad to link Mediterranean to the Red Sea from the port of Haifa occupied by Israel to the Saudi Arabia port of Amman in the Persian Gulf is not any new idea. It's part of the systematic Zionist robbery of the region, historic, because the region always had a railroad that connected Haifa with Amman and Damascus with Saudi Arabia, where travelers and traders displaced through the Middle East under Ottoman domination, later British colonialism. These ways were burned by sand after the implantation, after the occupation of Palestine 70 years ago. The project, approved by the First Minister Netanyahu in 2012, was recently proposed by the Minister of Transportation and Television, Katz of Israel, in Oman and as an initiative for regional transportation that goes beyond ideological and political differences to turn Israel in a bridge and Jordan in a regional logistic bridge. Also, as a shorter route that will also benefit, according to Netanyahu, the Palestinians that would also be connected through a branch through Jenin and other countries in the future. This Israeli proposal that formerly was named non-performable after the negotiations in the Persian Gulf, this project includes the isolation of Iran, excluding Syria as a commercial link between Europe and the Middle East, take over oil fields in the Persian Gulf, and increase Israeli economic hegemony on these nations, as well as pillage and transfer to Europe the gas fields discovered in the Mediterranean, considered the most important in the world in the last 10 years. The last railroad will have 150 kilometers long, which should be redder after the year ends. This would grant Israel an insurance policy in case of any event of the region that closed the Suez Canal in Egypt. This economic project also has colonialist dimensions that seek to impose its will in the Middle East, that the members of the bloc of resistance to Israeli occupation chaired by Syria and Iran would not stay with their arms crossed. What makes us think on a great clash that would include energy powers in the region.
Bueno, ya lo teníamos allí. Israel la presenta como una ruta comercial suplementaria.
Well, Israel is presenting it as an alternative, safer, shorter, and less costly route. Will it really benefit the members Israel said? This is what we are going to try to find out after a pause.
Ya venimos con más. No se vaya.
Acompañamos a los pueblos que resisten en cada una de sus luchas.
Somos esa ventana que se abre para visibilizarlos entre fronteras.
Bueno, estamos hablando de
We are talking about this railroad, Israeli railroad that is being offered as a proposal, and once it is, if accepted not only by the United States, that has already been authorized, must also be authorized by other states that are participating. We said there are two regional actors here, Palestine and Iran. And we're going now to Hispan TV that says that Israel and Takfiri terrorism threaten the entire world. It says that in a press conference together with his peer, Jevran Bassi, Iranian foreign minister, said that the Israeli alien danger does not only extend to Lebanon, but also to the entire world. The danger of takfir, dangers for Syria, Lebanon, but a thought, a way of action that threatens the entire world.
Afirmaba también que la solución política es la única vía que podría acabar.
He also said that the political solution is the only that could end the conflicts in the region in countries that are struggling against terrorism, in the case of Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and others. And he was talking about his hope that the al-Saud regime stop their closed view to reestablish peace and balance. This is an article, as I said, from Hispan TV. We were asking how the United States is talking about a maximum pressure campaign to counteract on the threats of Israel in the region. I ask how the relations of Israel are with countries of the Gulf. What links or bonds did they establish with this new offer? We have some elements. Regional peace is a new railroad project of Israel that seeks to end the differences with countries of the Gulf, especially Oman, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates, because countries with which it does not have very good relations. These offers date from 2002 when the monarchies fixed in written proposal that required Israel to withdraw from all occupied territories and the acceptance of an independent Palestinian state with its capital in East Jerusalem to reestablish normal relations with Israel. The Arab League signed this paper but did not execute it. It is the antithesis of the Arab League in 1967, was in 1967 known as 3-No, no to peace with Israel, no to its acknowledgement. For Israel, the plan includes certain problems that need to expand negotiations. For example, fully deliver the heights of Golan, the Palestinian political president in Israel, and the Jewish settlement, the elimination of Jewish settlements on the Strip. Israel Katz proposed the creation of a railroad that bonds Israel with the countries of the Gulf almost 20 years later. In fact, Israel only has diplomatic relations with Egypt and Jordan. I now invite Paulo Jofre from Chile, international analyst. It's a pleasure to have you because we know you are an expert on the region. To start, I would like to ask how much regional peace and what interest does Israel have on this approach to the countries of the Gulf? Good afternoon, Lucia and Telesur viewers. The same title gives us of the falsehood and hypocrisy of the project, Regional Peace Roads. The first thing is that to say that there is no possibility of peace when this initiative presented in Oman in an international event that has a historic background as the one you mentioned, but that in 2013 they have been working in a rail project that not only links historic Palestinian members with Israel, but those also tried to link Jordan and Saudi Arabia. In this case, hypocrisy regarding this be called regional sea way clashes against the occupation of Palestine since 1948 and later 1967. There cannot be any regional peace when Israel creates instability and problems And it's the case of Lebanon that occupied Palestine in those years and has been active co-participant of the Syrian instability countries. Therefore, we are a policy aimed to hide under the framework of international cooperation, economic development, transportation, and economy, regular destabilizing policy of aggression and occupation, not only in Palestine but also Lebanon, the heights of Syrian Golan, and unstable process in general in the Middle East. This measure is also aimed to eliminate all commercial development projects that could exist between Iraq, Iran, and Syria that could have great results after the war and that would efficiently connect not only what Israel is and the corrupt monarchies of the Persian Gulf, but the most ambitious projects that would bond, link Syria with Iran, Iraq, Russia, and the Silk Road would link Central Asia, Middle East, and Europe. Therefore, the Israeli project aims to withdraw protagonism to more ambitious projects in the region. So, it's a commercial project, but with a relevant political background. Israel wants to become a model that could reach agreements. What can we say? Totalitarian, corrupt monarchies that can't subject their peoples. I want to ask you if the people involved, these monarchies that are called by Israel to accept this project, if they accept it in a practice, will they be also accepting the Israeli occupation in originally Palestinian territories? Yes, of course. When you talk about a project that goes from Haifa, that is a port in since 1948 that crosses the Cisjordan and links to Amman, the chapter of Cisjordan and the Persian Gulf. You're talking about crossing countries, first through by an occupied region, and then countries whose monarchies have negotiated with Israel through a superior link that is the United States. It has been the articulator of kidnappings and agreements in security, politics, even in Jordan for many times. There is a company, an Israeli company under another name that is working with those countries, and these have been result from monarchies, not Cisjordan, Kuwait, Arab Emirates. It has been a product of monarchies that some recently they have delivered themselves to international policy of approaching the United States, and at the same time the political advances in encounters that have found coordinations of systems and security services. Therefore, we wouldn't be surprised if they reach an agreement with Jordan and Saudi Arabia that have been two of the monarchies that have betrayed the self-determination of the Palestinian people. It wouldn't be strange also that other Persian Gulf monarchies were added. Also in its level of influence. Therefore, we're talking about a policy diplomacy based on fear of Iran, fear of the Republic of Iran and what they can expect. They are destined precisely to try to convince these monarchies that it is better to establish relations with Israel, a direct way to the European market, and also threats in relation to the Suez Canal not be considered because of the aggressions in the zone. For example, the sinking of a boat that blocks this marine way completely. Israel is playing from the diplomatic, political, economic points of view, but also with fear of the monarchies of the zone. So once again, Iran is presented as a common threat by hegemonic tensions. This is what is said from the White House, the Pentagon. I would like, Pablo, that we update why this accusation, their influence, their historic capacity resisting. The first, Lucia, is that I have to say that Iran is not the aggressor country. There is not a historic approach the fact of Iran assaulting a country in which it has never. Since 1979, it was Iran who was assaulted in 1980 through an aggression performed by former dictator Hassan Hussein with Western support. And the other ice cream. Then have come permanent destabilization processes, blockades, etc., that have a country like the United States, and even in compliance with international treaties that Iran has accepted in order to subject to international one that is called the joint agreement accepted by France, UK, Germany, China, and nevertheless violated by the United States. If there is someone who has complied with the voice, it is clear that it is Israel that has violated international laws since 1948 through the protection the United States provides him with. Is there a fear to positive influence, solidary influence, that has meant that the have at portals of complete defeat the Takidi forces, terrorist groups, organized, armed, financed, and supported by the West through the United States, and so recognized by high officials of the United States as former Secretary Hillary Clinton. This is why they have acknowledged that the West has created and armed these groups. In Syria, support Hezbollah movement to defend Lebanon, and here struggle against terrorism and sustain since 1979 the defense of Palestinian with the flag of self-determination, which is a door for a conflict with Israel. With United States, this three-way between imperialism, Zionist, and Wahhanism is struggling against the people that are struggling against it every day, against terrorist groups, undoubtedly recognize the efforts of Iran to achieve the self-determination of Palestine, defend the sovereignty of Lebanon, Iraq, and Syria. A project that is presented like an alternative to the Suez Suez Canal in Egypt. What position could Europe have where the European Union is not quite united because of individual interests? Your question is very interesting, Lucia, because at the level of economic international relations, it seems that ideology is not as relevant. And it seems this is business that are divorced from religion and politics. Upon this idea of civic pragmatism of capitalism, but also Zionism, who at business level, this is the theory of the parallel chords that we Chileans know it very well because they talk about exercising commercial relations even if we have political problems. There's a clear lack of view of on what he calls economic peace. I insist this is based on the theory of separate chords in relation to Bolivia. It doesn't matter if we have problems with Bolivia regarding its outlet to the sea, while we have commercial relations with an important superavid. This hypocrisy in international relations many times makes Europe generating agreements with nations that violate human rights, like the case of Israel and Saudi Arabia. In spite of recognizing the murder of Saudi journalist, it continues having business relations, or with the Sahrawi people. They still have the protection of the United States, Spain, and France in virtue of oil, gas, the multi-millionary contributions keep these countries under military complexes. In the Persian Gulf, Israel and Morocco, there's an abundant market of euros and dollars that supply jobs to these European economies. Europe is a permanent hypocrisy. It is blind, deaf, and mute in case of respecting human beings, human rights. Therefore, we could expect Europe to consider this project is a good idea in virtue of the dollar-euro, but not human rights. Thank you very much for your analysis, Pablo.
Pablo Joffre, desde Chile, analista internacional.
International analyst Pablo Joffre from Chile.
Otro elemento que nos dice, tienen rato haciendo lobby con esta finalidad. Poco después de que el primer ministro Benjamin Netanyahu estuviese en Amán, el Netanyahu paid his first visit después de 20 años. El ministro de Exteriores del Sultanato de Omán, Yusuf bin Abdullah, decía en un foro de seguridad en Bahrein, Israel es un estado presente en la región y todos lo entendemos. Un mundo está al tanto, tal vez sea hora de que sea tratado igual que otros estados con mismas obligaciones. Nuestra prioridad es poner fin al conflicto y movernos hacia un nuevo mundo. No así se decía meses atrás. Entonces, por eso decimos probablemente tenga rato esto con reuniones secretas o con el lobby necesario para un cambio, un viraje de opinión y para que ese proyecto israelí tenga el aval de los actores que están involucrados y que resultan fundamentales. Nos preguntamos a propósito de actores, ¿qué papel juega Estados Unidos? Decíamos al principio que uno de los representantes inmediatamente declaraba, exactamente el enviado para Oriente Medio, Jason Greenblatt, estos esfuerzos respaldan los nuestros. De ello vamos a hablar una vez que hagamos nuestra última pausa y retornemos con nuestra invitada. Allá. Para materializar o conseguir sus objetivos
to materialize the geopolitical goals, Halcom has made its moves. The United States wants to reconfigure the Middle East map according to its interests. We're going to see how the United States has pressed on one of its allies to achieve what is best for its aspirations. July 4, U.S. President Donald Trump, through a publication on Twitter, ordered the OPEC countries to lower the prices of crude that progressively, and thanks to the strategy of agreeing on quotas or production bans for each country, have recovered the lost ground. September 4, OPEC said no to that proposition that would lower the crude. October 2, Saudi journalist, columnist of Washington Post, El Khashoggi, is seized and murdered after allegedly a policy of the Saudi prince of silencing critical voices against him. October 3, Trump increased its threats to Saudi Arabia because of raising the price of oil. He said that October 6, the higher prince answered to Trump and said that Saudi Arabia existed before the United States. October 9, the price of oil barrels reduced to $67. Since the White House would press Saudi Arabia to leave OPEC by breaking the alliance of the cartel,
we
have in our studio Isabel Franchi, international specialist in Middle Eastern Africa.
Bueno, empecemos por mirarlo económicamente.
We will start by the economic part. They told us that we were look at us from the diplomatic level, but what economic results would it have for the involved parties? And Egypt is in first line. In the first place, talking about Israel, Israel per se is an expansionist state that until now it doesn't have any geographic limits established. So we're talking about under the slogan and calling to peace, the road of peace, under merely economic interests. It is one of the points that the region is interested in, but this goes beyond. We're talking about a railroad that goes, that involves occupied Palestine, crosses Jordan, and arrives to Saudi Arabia. But what is the importance, the big importance that this railroad had? They were talking about items and interests also involved, China and Turkey. Why this axis? But in this train, they left all the Persian Gulf aside. So we're talking about interests that go beyond certain territorial, regional territorial domination.
El protectorado inglés en la zona.
The British protectorate in the zone has created the so-called Suez Canal, where 70% of oil traffic runs from the Arab Peninsula to Europe. Before they didn't talk about the Asian market, so we're talking about a main ally of the United States that will be economically affected, and the domestic GDP will be severely affected. And with a country as Egypt that undergoes huge crisis, with a population growth that is also huge. Now, looking at this panorama, we see that it is one alternative, this canal, to avoid maritime economic traffic in the zone. So this canal
el camino de la paz o el tren de la paz
has been called the train of peace.
Limitando en cierta forma
and in a certain way limit any
incidencia de parte de
incidents
Irán, desde el Hormuz,
from
pasando
Iran,
por donde hoy
from
la guerra feroz
Hormuz,
contra el Yemen, que hasta
and
hoy, después de ciertos años,
the point
no han
where
logrado dominar a este pueblo
there's a
gallego,
ferocious war against Yemen that after many years they have not managed to control them, with a great hunger, a precarious situation of these people, and Saudi Arabia is involved, besides what they're talking about Houthi, etc. So, grosso modo, this is a panorama we have on the table. What are the interests? Israel's interest is the direct central domination of Saudi Arabia, where besides talking about the train, they're talking about a giant airport that could be Eilat, El Medina. We're talking about a migration movement for La Mecca, Hajj. En la Meca, donde hay igualmente unos movimientos where there are also huge economic movements in Mecca also. So in a certain way, we are looking at a new phase in the Middle East where Saudi Arabia is concluding a dream for Israel to continue the domination of all this zone. In the midst of everything is this Arab conglomerate. So we must think that this is thought as a project and will become effective in 5 years. Well, it's not so easy, because we're talking about a very complex Middle East, about Jordan, even if it's a U.S. ally, and a king that is always
de esta jugada siempre fue israelí y
subject to Israeli and U.S. games, but there are people inside, as well as in Egypt, will not allow this to be performed in detriment of their interests. But talking about Jordan, we have a progressive force that still does not accept normalization, although it exists with Israel. We are looking in other zones, the normalization of relations, even if it is gradual, with the Persian Gulf. But I would say this is not as easy to establish. This route, as you mentioned before, existed between the First and Second World War as an alternative. If this would be a profitable alternative and efficient, alternative in the zone, this project is not so easy. What does the United States envoy to the Middle East say that this is in the line of our interests? Of course, the interest of domination, of traffic of any kind that is not affected or paralyzed by the resisting axis in the zone. They want to avoid all interest existing in Bab el-Mandeb or Suez Canal or from Amos, which is also, this normalization entails weapons traffic, natural resources traffic. Until now, Israel dreams that they be the center in energy matter in the region, whether gas or oil, to dominate traffic both to Europe and Asia. Since 2006, somebody's trying something. With the war in Syria, all the lines where the Lebanese coast to Brazza is full of gas. And what did they want with the 2006 war? Eliminate the Hezbollah resistance, eliminate Lebanon. And also, under the decree 1559, for them to send their oil pipeline and gas pipeline in all the zones of the coast. So it's a zone that transcends political interests or peace, because this leads to economic, political, regional domination interests, as well as the Israeli state's expansion in the zone. Historically, when they talked about the Suez Canal and the creation of the artificial state of Israel, it had to go after the withdrawal of the British protectorate. They talked about a nation preserved for the north in this sense. They divided two continents, the north of Africa and Asia. They had a huge power, reserves, and huge natural resources. So the creation of the state
reiterar o regresar a su origen religioso.
Even if it's going back to the religious origins, that had a specific goal to preserve the interests of Zionist economic interests in the zone. That was that creation. If we're talking about Suez Canal, the importance of Suez Canal, the main goal was to preserve and facilitate this marine traffic. And neither territory nor the railroad could substitute. Until now, if this is made specific, even if it's not acknowledged by the international community, the state of Israel would be
siempre se ha dicho, yo digo, es el lince internacional.
Israel is an international lens, goes under the slogan, gives a speech of peace, but we're actually looking in the zone, the same zone in Gaza. We're looking at the massacres that are being committed. And the U.S. ally that is, it's the bloodiest state in the world, Saudi Arabia, they're concealing the largest violation to human rights of journalists. We have seen all this in the world, and the United States looks the other way, but the payment is oil, the regularization of relations, and conceal what is happening in Palestine, the violation of human rights in Yemen. So these interests of colonial states, of the huge transnational, of imperial interests in the zone is what prevail in this area. This road of peace, the so-called road of peace, has so much destruction and malice that they want to apply what they've dreamed, which is the expansion to the Euphrates. And you see that when they impose with another alternative, it's because they lose the other one. And they have lost because there's a war in Yemen that have resisted what they wanted to do there. Would this hinder ambitious projects like the Chinese Silk Route? In a certain way, China looks to the project according to its interests. It measures the world and its interests according to the superávit to its economy, the surplus, and wherever it can invest its capital, but does not take a position as a political axis against the United States or any other one in the zone. They say that Eilat Airport that goes that will cost $30 billion, China is willing to finance it. They're also talking about an opposition inside the Israeli government that says that this is a huge commitment that could also compromise the economy and the pockets of the Israeli state. But there's the other side that, with the support of the United States, to perform this project, after Trump came to office in the current administration in Israel. That's how you understand it. Thank you very much. We now go to our conclusions, final ideas.
Israel, cuyo primer ministro Benjamin Netanyahu ha reconocido que está en una crisis de seguridad.
Israel recognizes that Netanyahu is in a crisis. It is playing diplomatically, and this time it chose the monarchies of the Persian Gulf to maneuver. The name of the plan is a regional peace plan, is a euphemism if we consider that it would first mean to accept Israeli occupation because it would pass through originary Palestinian territories. If we see that this tries to take away protagonism of ambitious trade projects between Iran, Iraq, Syria, and China, the United States is a 21st century partner that is deaf to human rights violations, because it could be a route to mobilize merchandise and weapons, avoiding Bab el-Mandeb, Suez, and all those routes. We end here. Thank you for being here.